Thank you for auditing Professor Sky's record review. I'm not going to do a traditional weekend episode today. I'm still traveling with my family. We're doing Maryland and Pennsylvania and West Virginia, kind of traveling all around the Mid-Atlantic, Rust Belt area. And so, I've been trying to think, what am I going to do as a video? I've done 3 a week, every week for the past couple of years. And it just fell into my lap. I just happened to see on Facebook that a friend of mine saw the Hella Mega Tour with Weezer, Fall Out Boy, and Green Day, and they saw them in Pittsburgh, and we happened to be going to Philadelphia the next day. Now, to contextualize this, I want to be a little bit provocative. In the middle of the middle act, Fall Out Boy went on second, and Pete Wentz, who's the bass player, and apparently the front man of Fall Out Boy, I don't understand that, I'll get to that later, he gets on the mic, and he's like, when we talked about doing this 3 years ago, this Monsters of Rock tour, we said to the promoters what we were going to do. And they said, kids don't buy rock and roll anymore. And he waited for everybody in the crowd to say, boo! And I, being the jerk that I am, screamed as loud as I possibly could, he was right! And I did that to be a jerk, but also because it's true. Kids, in not in the terms of no one listens to rock and roll, but in general, the zeitgeist of music is not really with rock and roll. That's what the promoter was saying, and that's what Pete Wentz wasn't accepting. Right after saying this, he goes, we showed them, we sold out a baseball stadium. And that's where I saw them, at Citizens Bank Park, or as I called it, Chase Field. No, wait a minute, Bank of America Field. I forgot which bank it was, but it's Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. And I think this concert, with these 3 bands, is a great place for us to wage the eternal, or apparently eternal, argument of whether or not rock and roll is dead. This concert is an argument both for and against the concept that rock and roll is dead. At least dead in terms of something that's able to shape the cultural landscape, something that's able to move people and be the dominant cultural force. Of course, hip-hop is ascendant. Of course, hip-hop is the most important is an important piece of popular culture and the history of humanity. So rock and roll can't really fight against that. I apologize for the weird place I'm in. I'm in this Airbnb in Philadelphia. It's 4 stories, but it's really narrow. So the air conditioning's on. You might hear a little bit of noise there. I'm in the attic. There's nowhere to hide from my kids. They're sleeping downstairs. So what is the case for this being showing that rock and roll is alive? First of all, it's pretty cool, and it's a really fun show. If you haven't seen it, it's totally worth it, right? There are 3 real bands, meaning each member of the band is important, and they play their instruments, and they play it well. Power chords everywhere. Everybody was rocking the entire time. Minimal stage effects, minimal spectacle. In general, there's some fireworks and pyrotechnics and stuff like that, but in general, it is just 3 bands making real rock and roll music, and a lot of those songs were hits. Here's a case against. Who's the headliner? Who headlines Weezer, Green Day, and Fall Out Boy? What was the last hit between the 3 of these groups? No, that wasn't really a hit. That was an alternative. When was the last time any of these bands released a song that you would hear at the supermarket? We can use that as a measure of success. I believe it was Weezer, and I believe it was Africa. Their cover of Africa by Toto, by the way, is the answer. But the real question is, who among these 3 groups really is the draw, And this kind of hints at the crowd. The crowd itself does not portend great things for the future of rock and roll. And yes, I just used the word portend in my video. I don't have a script, I have notes. And that's just the word that came naturally. It's not that it was an old crowd, which would be a problem. And it's not that it's a young crowd, which would be a good sign indicator of the health. It was an olding crowd. It was an aging crowd. It was a lot of people in their late 20s, early 30s, right at that point, that sweet spot where you start wondering if you really want to go to concerts anymore. That was sort of a stadium filled with people at that stage of life. Another indicator that maybe rock and roll isn't as healthy as they're claiming is that you needed all three of these groups. And you needed all three of these groups that all hit slightly different notes in terms of who are they going to attract. A Weezer fan is not the same thing as a Green Day fan. It's not the same thing as a Fall Out Boy fan, right? There's not a lot of sharing between them. But nonetheless, it was a sold-out show at Citizens Bank Park, so we will call that at least a success. And it was a good show, and that's another reason it would be a success. I'm also going to tell you a couple of great dad moments in concerting. So if you're not a dad or a mom, if you're not a parent who's trying to organize travel, it's hard. It's hard traveling with your kids. It's hard figuring out like where to go and what you can do. And this was like a huge success. My daughter is a gigantic Fall Out Boy fan, it turns out. I'll get to that later. And I like Weezer a good amount, and my son likes Green Day, and my wife was just happy to go to a concert. So like finding this concert that was just great. But then I did the best thing ever. I got, on StubHub or whatever, some scalper site, the best seats in the house. Now you're asking, what's the best seats in the house? What's the best seats in the house? Okay, you're a 20-year-old, you're a 23-year-old, you're thinking, oh, orchestra pit, get there at 4 o'clock and be in the front row. Feel Rivers Cuomo mustache sweat on your face. Yes! The best seat in the house was literally the worst seat in the house. Section 419, row 16, the back row of the highest nosebleed seats there. Because that was under an awning. The only section in the whole stadium covered in the event of rain. And when you're a dad and you're trying to have epic moments in dad concerting, you make sure that you don't get rained on. So this will come back later. And then we sit there and we look out and we have a full view of all of Philadelphia. So my wife, who's not particularly interested in these three bands, and doesn't hate them, but it's just kind of there, has a beautiful view, like basically a panoramic 360 view of the rather beautiful city of Pittsburgh. So just putting that out there. Underrated, the worst seats in the house. Let's get to the concert, shall we? First off, let's start with Weezer, who opened up the show. It was weird to me that they would open up this day. It was just the day. Like it's like watching like a Lollapalooza show or something, and like some opening band plays in the middle of the day, and you feel kind of bad for them. Except this is Weezer, like one of the biggest rock bands of the last 30 years. And this is the good news for you if you're a Weezer fan and you're watching this. I've been struggling. Like I don't quite get Weezer. I just don't quite get them. Well, do you know what I get now? Them. I finally get Weezer. Because of a question my wife asked me during the second song. Is he serious or is he being ironic? I was like, wait a minute. Yes, that's it. This is the purest expression of irony and earnestness at the same time. He looks like a complete fool with an ironic rock and roll stance, with a spiky leather jacket, with a intentional mullet, with a bad mustache, with like fingernail on his paint so you can see him do tap licks. I'm trying to go through all the weird affect that he had. I don't even know if I can even get to them all these things that he did that seems silly. Playing like a shredder guitar, a left-handed shredder guitar upside down. Like again, just trying to be as ridiculous as possible. Even their decoration was just like different drum heads with the letter Weezer across, and stacks and stacks and stacks of Marshall amps, all just being like this weird affect of like, this is stadium rock. The whole thing is like him doing a parody of stadium rock, which is what it is. Rivers Cuomo is doing a parody of stadium rock, and Rivers Cuomo is making great stadium rock and roll music. Writing, recording, producing, performing stadium rock music as well as it's ever been done. As well as Aerosmith in Texas in 1978, as well as Kiss in Cincinnati in 1976. We have Weezer in goddamn Wells Fargo Stadium in the middle of Philadelphia. That's how good Weezer is performing. And it's this weird combination of an ironic comment on stadium rock while being it, winking at the same time as he's actually doing it. And that's a better question. In Aerosmith, when they were playing in Dallas, right, whatever, when they played at the place where the Cowboys played back in the late 70s. Like, they're kind of winking too, right? Like, Steven Tyler's, he's kind of joking, right? Here, it's just so clear how much Rivers knows what he's doing. So it starts off with Hero off of Van Weezer. It's very clear Van Weezer, the album was made for this tour, for this moment. He is operating on a totally different level than the other two bands here, but that's okay. Just rocking and rocking, going hits to hits, going to Hash Pipe, which is more of just a stronger metal song. Then we heard Beverly Hills, which I remember very carefully, like my friends who were Weezer fans saying they felt betrayed. I kind of get it here. Then probably the highlight of the whole thing was The End of the Game, which is the song that Weezer wrote to sound like Van Halen. And they play it and it sounds like Van Halen. And they open up their whole set with Jump by Van Halen. And here we are, they're trying to be Van Halen at the Metal Ends in 1984, and they're pulling it off. I finally forgive the song My Name is Jonas because I realized it's a stadium anthem. Rivers Cuomo is having fun the entire time, and so am I, and so are they. Around this time, my son asked me a couple more questions because he was so impressed by what he saw. And I said, there's no one like Rivers Cuomo. There just isn't. There's just no one like him. There's just nobody. Like, no one has done what he's doing, and he's doing it so well. Everything's very, very slick, very nice. All my favorite songs off of the OK Human album was just beautiful, like this kind of gentle, sweet song. He turned into a stadium anthem by allowing the part where it goes, I don't know what's wrong with me, like waiting for one bar. That's really nice. They played Sweater or Undone, which a lot of people forget is the reason that Weezer became famous, was how big that song was. And this is a crucial moment here for why Weezer is great, or why Rivers Cuomo is great. It is great seeing all of the original band just playing, right? That's cool, and that's to their credit. It's that he turned the Neil Young solo that he did in the original Sweater into a Van Halen solo. Like even like the weird harmonic sounds and like their shredding thing throughout the entire concert. Every guitar solo that used to be one way is transformed into a Van Halen guitar solo. And you just get the sense he just spent all of COVID learning how to be Eddie Van Halen. Just great. And then the whole thing, what it makes me think about is what's the point of having dynamics, right? Weezer is a band that's just so great at using dynamics. They took what the Pixies did and they made it better. I'm sorry, I like the Pixies, but I don't like them as much as I like Weezer. It makes so much sense here. Like, what's the point of having dynamics is to like have this soft and loud and have this stadium anthem. So it totally, totally works. Playing with the concert, of course, they have a song where they say that you went to a Green Day concert, and he says that, and he waits for like a minute and a half. And then leads up to Africa, which is funny because it seems like he forgets the words in there. And here it is, the biggest hit of all three bands, and it's a cover, it's a meme song. Hey everybody, rock and roll's not dead. The song you're most excited to see is a joke. According to my son, the map of Africa on the screen behind him did not include Senegal. I don't know if that's true, but that's pretty funny. There's like a big drum solo there, and by that I mean like there's a big drum, and Rivers Cuomo plays it, and there's a drum solo. Say It Ain't So becomes a great stadium anthem all the way through, and they end with Buddy Holly, which I thought was a bad choice to end it. It should have ended with Say It Ain't So. And the whole thing made me so happy. It was quick, it was like an hour, it was just the right amount, and it made me realize the benefit of this formula, this Monsters of Rock formula, is it's kind of light. Like one band comes in, doesn't have to be their best, doesn't be the best show, just kind of a bad video show behind them the whole time. It just has kind of a lightness to it. The whole time, it never felt oppressive. Sometimes rock and roll shows can feel just like a slog, and this one didn't. Leading up to Fall Out Boy, who I know nothing about. I know nothing about Fall Out Boy, nothing. And so this is my introduction to them. On the way to the show, today we drove up from DC to Philadelphia, and we listened to some of them then, and I was like, why is every song an anthem? Like every single song is some kind of super millennial, whoa, whoa, like in the middle of the song. Well, if I asked what's the point of dynamics of Weezer, what's the point of going whoa in every song, you understand what that is in a stadium setting. A perfect band for the stadium. My favorite part of this was that my daughter has always said that she loves My Chemical Romance and knows all their songs. Always said that she loves Panic at the Disco and loves all their songs. It turns out She knows every single lyric to every single Fall Out Boy song. This was the greatest surprise. I was like, she was like a Fall Out Boy werewolf. I'm like, where did this person come from? She's singing along. She's never made me listen to them, never asked me about their concerts, never told me a single thing. So this is also kind of a great dad moment because it's, you know, my daughter has her own musical taste and I don't even know about it. It's nice to feel that separation. And this is where I understood why Weezer didn't open. The fans for Fall Out Boy were insane. Like everybody in the whole stadium knew every single one of these lyrics. They were just jumping up and down and so happy and so excited like the whole time. It was a really fun thing. It was a really fun thing to see everybody so excited about this band that I know nothing about. So the main guy is not the singer. The main guy, the singer, is the Sean Astin of rock and roll. I'm just gonna drop them. I don't have a microphone. But I think that's the funniest thing I've said for quite a long time. Because if you know Sean Astin, you know the guy, Samwise from Lord of the Rings. Sorry, it's kind of hot up here. I'm in the attic. And then you know the lead singer from Fall Out Boy. I think it's a perfect thing. I'm not a fan of Fall Out Boy. Turns out, don't like their music. I found that out through this, where they're screaming the whole time but never able to actually get any kind of catharsis. I don't quite understand how you can do that. They have some kind of weird, like, Ron Livingston's in there and they have some kind of weird narrative. I didn't quite get it. But I will say, light 'em up, up, up. You know that song? Light 'em up, 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 I'm on fire. That song was the best song played by any of the three bands. I was so happy. I didn't know that was them, and I've heard that song in the background, and I was dancing around, the kids were dancing around, and the bass player had fire shooting out of his bass. It was like this great stadium rock moment. And that's the thing that stadium rock can do that other rock shows can't do. To have like, 45,000 people going up, 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 all at the same time. Even though I don't like Fall Out Boy, I loved that moment. Love the drummer too. He's just a crazy animal, just beating the hell out of the drums the entire time. And the greatest moment of all dadding in history is it wasn't raining for the first half of the show, like during Weezer. And so I thought, I did all this work. I even went and bought ponchos. I was all ready. I was all ready for the rain, but it didn't come. But during Fall Out Boy, it did. And just seeing the spotlights go with the rain coming down and us being in the worst seats in the house, the cheapest tickets I could possibly find, and we are all warm and dry. I hope someday you too have a moment as great as that. Seriously. My wife's over there, but I would just in the middle of the show, I'd just go like this. Like, hands are dry. Hands are dry. Remember that?
I do.
Can you believe what a good wife I have that she's sitting here just listening to me give this? She gets to live with me all day, every day, and yet she's also here too. And then we get up to Green Day. And now this is the thing. I didn't understand why Weezer wasn't closing, and now I do. Green Day absolutely had the crowd the most going they possibly could. My history of not seeing Green Day goes back to their famous free concert at the Esplanade in Boston in like 1992 or 93. I didn't go, and I probably should have, because apparently that was this great show where everyone like lit stuff on fire and threw mud at them, and that's what preceded their Woodstock performance and all that. But I don't know. I just thought they were some pop punk band. I didn't care who they were. Before Great Moments in Dad concerting at number 2, the merch table was terrible. There's like 2 merch tables for the entire thing. It took you at least 2 hours to buy anything at the store, at the merch table. My kids wanted merch, obviously, And so I told my daughter, I will wait and I will miss the first half of Green Day in order to get you some stuff at the merch table, because I'm sure it'll clear out once Green Day starts playing. So I'm sitting there, they start playing Bohemian Rhapsody, like the Queen song. Like, they don't play it, Green Day doesn't play it, it's just played on the PA. And it's probably the most successful song of the entire night. Everybody is singing, it's totally wild, and I realize why. The Venn diagram of these 3 groups and their 3 fans, the one thing they all agree on is Bohemian Rhapsody is the greatest song of all time. 45,000 people sitting in there all agreed at the same time Bohemian Rhapsody is the greatest song of all time. Plus, it is the great anthem rock song, the great stadium rock song. Like it's like there's always something very intellectual with what's going on with Rivers Cuomo, right? Like he almost uses his brain more than his heart, And I think this was his idea. That's my prediction. That this, along with Jump before his thing, is this thesis statement. Like, what are we doing? We are doing what Van Halen and Queen did. And that's what they're trying to say. Starts going with American Idiot. Everything's going crazy. He tells the crowd to put away their phones, and they actually do. And I left the merch line. I failed. I could not wait for 2 hours. I did not want to wait that long to buy a t-shirt for $40. The t-shirt that I would have bought looks just like this, you know. It's not bad, you know, front and back. But there's no way I was going to wait to pay $40 to get this shirt. I decided I was not going to buy this shirt. Great dad moment number 4 coming up later. One problem I have with Green Day is, hey, that's not Green Day. That's Green Day and 3 other people. Green Day is a famous trio. The 3 people, I was all excited to see 3 people making all that noise. There's 3 other people. This is what's called the Daryl Jones problem. Do you know who Daryl Jones is? Daryl Jones, for the last 28 years, is the bass player for the Rolling Stones. Okay? I believe Bill Wyman, the original bassist for the Rolling Stones, was only a bassist for the Rolling Stones for 29 years or 30 years. So basically, he's been a bass player for the Rolling Stones longer than Bill Wyman. But when you see the Rolling Stones in concert, the camera never focuses for the Jumbotron, you know, for the screens, never focuses on Daryl Jones even for a second. It's like Mick, Keith, and then Daryl Jones, Mick, Daryl Jones, Keith. And that's the way it works. And that's what they did for these 3 members of the band, including the guy who did all the guitar work. And they would just show his hands, and they would never show his face. And the other 2 people, you never saw their face up until one song where he highlighted the band and kind of saved it all by at least like saying who their names were. But it was weird. It's weird because I love Green Day as a trio, but then they were kind of cheating. I mean, a song like, I don't know what the title is. I've never intentionally listened to Green Day in my entire life, although I do like them. The "You Don't Like Your Enemy, and an Enemy," just jumping up and down. And this is where I realized that Billy Joe Armstrong, a man I once saw at the Jack London movie theater in Oakland, California. I didn't say hi to him or anything. I was like, hey, celebrity. Billy Joe Armstrong is the good and bad part of Green Day. Like, he writes these great songs, interesting, catchy songs. But in concert, the dude is Bret Michaels, lead singer of Poison. He is the lead singer of Limousine. He is like, all right, Philadelphia, Philly, can you scream? Philly, can you rock? I mean, like the whole, so he'd be like singing his songs, you know, like, my paycheck's on me. He had these 2 different voices, completely different. I walk these streets at night. Philly, make it real. It was just weird. It's very unsettling, and it wasn't pleasant, and it wasn't cool. It just felt like the bad parts of an arena rock. Arena.
I've been holding it in for long enough.
Oh, I'm telling you, that's hard. You knew that was going to happen, and I started doing my Billy Joe Bret Michaels voice. Okay. So, I mean, that's kind of the bad part, is that it was really cheesy. And I don't think it was cheesy the way Rivers Cuomo was cheesy or was intentionally cheesy. It just felt cheesy. But still, I mean, their songs are great. The audience loved it. They did cool things. They put like a video camera on the bass so you can actually like have like a bass cam. That was cool. The song "Hitchin' a Ride" was just great. And he got this whole like crowd thing between like who's from Philadelphia and who's from New Jersey. I mean, seriously, like cheesy rock stuff. But then cool, it's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, just getting everybody going. And I was up and I was jumping and I was screaming and I was having a great time, right? I'm not saying like, oh, this rock and roll is blah. It was quite good. The low point of everything is the song "I Want to Rock and Roll All Night" by Kiss, which they covered. And I get it. I think this is Rivers Cuomo's idea too. I get it. This is what we're doing. This is our statement. But Kiss sucks. I'm sorry. I was born in 1977, which means I have no nostalgia for Kiss, either for when they came out or for when they came back. So if you just listen to their music just individually, they suck. I'm sorry. Maybe they don't. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments. Tell me one good thing about Kiss in the comments. Okay, but I Want to Rock and Roll All Night is one of my 5 least favorite songs of all time. I absolutely hate this song, and I get it. It's the thesis of the whole show that they're the new rock band, but it just was not good. I don't like that song. It feels cheesy. Cool, kind of like the 21 Guns song, kind of like loud and interesting. And then finally, they eventually shout out the entire band. The problem is I was writing down all these like notes in my notes app on the phone, and I had to do it quickly because I was like watching the show, and so I wrote some things I don't know what they mean. So please tell me what this means. Wanna be a minotaur. I don't know what that means. And then we had enough. My wife and I looked at each other. The good thing about sitting in section 419, row 16, the very back of the stadium, is that you have a lot of space. It's cool. I could put my head against the chain link fence. That was nice. The bad part is, at the end of the show, you're going to get stuck. And we're in Philadelphia. We don't know. Like, we're staying. Could you please say the name of this neighborhood? Because I don't think I can say it. What's the name of this neighborhood?
I think it's called the Gayborhood.
It's called the Gayborhood. It's a very nice place. I didn't name it. That's what it's called. And so we have like an hour-long walk, or potentially an hour-long wait for an Uber, or potentially taking a bus in a foreign city. So we don't really want to wait around to the end of the show. So Dad move number 3, we left the show early. They were doing some kind of jazz explosion thing happening. They let some kid play guitar. It was cool. And we made it all the way down to the ground floor, and we were about to leave the door, and they started playing Basket Case, and my son and my daughter like literally ripped my arm and like made me go back and watch it. And we watched Basket Case, and it's a perfect ending because Basket Case is just a great song. And it's a reminder they're a great rock band, and they are a great rock band. Even if Billy Joe is Bret Michaels and Limousine, even if all that, like, it's just great. It's great. It's awesome. It's rock and roll. And we left. And because we left, I checked the set list later. Because we left, we missed Time of Your Life. Hate that song. Don't hate that song. Heard that song too many times. The problem with being a college professor is every single year you have to watch graduation stuff, which means montage with Time of Your Life and goddamn Pomp and Circumstance. Now, Pomp and Circumstance is way worse than Time of Your Life, but I could go the rest of my life without ever having to hear it, and certainly not as an encore to a show. So we left, and then dad moment number 4, the dude's selling bootleg t-shirts outside. I got cash at the ATM inside Citizens Bank Park. I paid the $3.50 exchange fee that they charge you, those damn crooks, because I knew if I didn't get it at the show, I'd have cash and I'd buy a bootleg outside. So got the size for my daughter, gave him the $20, saved myself the hour, and I felt pretty good about myself. It had stopped raining, and we walked all the way from Citizens Bank Park to the Gayborhood, through the entire South Philly on 10th Street. A very interesting walk. It seemed like every block had a different characteristic. At a certain point, we were tempted to run, but in general, it was a very nice, relaxing midnight walk for 4 strangers for like an hour and a half through southern Philadelphia. So there's my review. I'm very happy. Is rock and roll dead? Of course it's not dead. My channel is about the vitality of music, and there's lots of great rock and roll being made. There's lots of interesting things happening. Is rock and roll currently dead in pop culture? Yeah, of course it is. I mean, like, Maroon 5 is like the biggest rock hit you can have, and they don't make rock music, right? It is. It doesn't mean it'll be dead forever. It just means it's dead now. Guaranteed within the next 5 years, some new band is going to start playing guitar, and then they're going to be some big band, and everyone's going to say rock is back, because rock and roll is fine. And I think this show proved there is an audience for it, but also that audience is aging, is olding, as I portend. Okay, well, I'm going to finally figure out, we're going to go to some kind of Victorian Museum of Science. All right, until next time, there's the camera.